All right, thanks for staying with News at Prime tonight. Still on the former President Jacob Zuma's corruption trial, the original whistleblower in the matter, Patricia de Lille, is expected to be the first witness on the stand. She raised the issue in Parliament, and she's calling for investigations into claims of multi-billion rand corruption linked to the arms deal saga. The Good Party leader is also the current Public Works Minister and has been using her portfolio to also call for greater protection of whistleblowers. Patricia de Lille joins me now for more. Ms. de Lille, before I get into some of the, ideas that you would like the country to explore where whistleblowers are concerned, are you in Pietermaritzburg tonight?
No, certainly, Cathy. I will not be at court tomorrow because of the delay of the trial. Tomorrow, officially, President Jacob Zuma will submit his plea for the recusal of the prosecutor, advocate Billy Downer. And then the court will then set a date by when the NPA must officially respond to former President Jacob Zuma's plea tomorrow. And then another date will have to be set as to when the court will listen to both sides. And because of that, I'm not needed in Pietermaritzburg tomorrow. I will have to wait for the judge to make a ruling one way or the other, whether he agrees with the plea by former President Jacob Zuma. So I have discussed it today with the NPA, and therefore I will not be there tomorrow. I will certainly follow the proceedings, but I will not be in Pietermaritzburg.
Mr. Lille, I want us to talk about some of the ideas that you've been speaking about in terms of whistleblowers in the country and some of the interventions that you believe can be put in place in order to encourage greater whistleblowing. And, having been there, and the country, of course, has changed quite significantly over the last 2 decades or so since you last brought the issue of the arms deal to the fore. We're seeing more and more that there's very little space for those who blow the whistle on corrupt activity to continue to live and function in South Africa and have successful lives, even though what they were doing was the right thing. That seems to be the reality of whistleblowers in this country.
Yes, most definitely, Cathy. I do agree with you. The newly established forum has agreed that the first task will be to look at how can we incentivize whistleblowers to come forward with information and evidence that can lead to a successful arrest and prosecution. We will further do some work to see how we can implement what we can implement to incentivize whistleblowers to come forward. You are right that whistleblowers are very, very courageous and patriotic South Africans. At their own expense and their own risk, they don't do it for money. They do it because they love this country, and we respect that. But what we have seen, a culture that has developed in our country over the past 20 years, is that as government, we spend a lot of resources on commissions of inquiry and this investigation and that investigation after the event, after corruption, to find out what went wrong. And we want to change that culture, to begin to introduce a system whereby we need to say, what are we doing to, first of all, detect corruption and prevent corruption? And that is where the whistleblowers are coming in. Many whistleblowers will approach the authorities with one or the other information, and then nothing happened. The forum that we have put together that was launched yesterday consists of government, the private sector, civil society, and all the law enforcement agencies. So we will be receiving that information. We will, of course, at all times protect the identity of any whistleblower. And then having received these allegations, we will then refer it to the relevant agency with the relevant mandate to further investigate. We will then have oversight over that investigation, and we will make a report, a public report to the country on a quarterly basis. So we are really attempting to turn the tide against corruption. Corruption steals from the poor. Corruption is the cause of a lack of trust, a trust deficit between government, the investors, and our society. And to turn that trust deficit around, we must be showing as government that we are capable to hold the crooks, the delinquents, we are able to hold them accountable. So I'm very hopeful with this new approach of all of society involvement in fighting corruption. We've got Corruption Watch on the forum. We have the financial intelligence on the forum, all the law enforcement agencies. We've got the Human Science Research Council that is now looking at how do we, with every infrastructure project, do a risk analysis, and how do we then make sure that we bring in a multidisciplinary due diligence team right from the beginning, from where they are writing the specifications for the tender, from where the tender goes out, the tender evaluation, the tender adjudication. Those are the systems that we are going to put in place.
Sure.
Yes.
Minister, I just want to talk about some of the challenges that you're trying to alleviate, and in particular when it comes to the infrastructure projects that the government may currently be busy with. Of course, we know that something that has become quite prevalent is what is known as the construction mafia, or people who will rock up at projects that are currently being worked on and start demanding all sorts of monies. Lives have been lost in the process, Minister, but this practice still continues, it seems, unabated. What is government doing about it, and in particular your department? Is this an issue that you're taking up? I imagine that your projects at Public Works have not been exempt.
Yes, definitely, Cathy. You know what? As government, we cannot do it alone. And it's about time that we acknowledge that. And we need the help of all our communities to be involved. So what we've introduced now for all infrastructure projects is that we will do social facilitation. We will go to the communities, we will plan with them, we will tell them about the local content, we will tell them about the local labor and the training for local labor and using small SMMEs within that project, so that the community can know what is the value in any infrastructure project for that local community. That will help us to stop this mafia who claims to be talking on behalf of the community and demanding a 30%. At that stage, the community will then say, but we are involved already. But this is also a criminal issue. And therefore, the South African Police Services is involved. They had some success, but it is still continuing, like you say. The mafia comes and they demand a 30% of the value of the project on behalf of the communities, when it's really for themselves. It is a serious concern. And even investors that speak to us want us to give that security and assurance that this project will be able to proceed without the involvement of the mafia. But we can no longer, Cathy, allow the crooks to hold us hostage in this country. We must, as the community and as government, we must all stand our ground. Because what these crooks are doing is that when they demand that 30%, they also take money away from the actual project.
Sure.
And the result of that is poor quality infrastructure that's being delivered to our communities. So I can't agree more with you that we need to do more to stop this mafia.
Right.
At least where the mafia is now prevalent, there are only 2 provinces for now, which is Gauteng and KZN. And together with the security cluster and the Minister of Police, we are on those cases on a daily basis.
All right. Minister, we're going to have to leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for your time and for coming onto the show. Patricia de Lille.